right, it looks like we got a good group here, so we will go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for joining us today to talk about positioning your business for future exit. I'm going to do some quick introductions here and a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, if you guys want to chime in on any of our discussion today, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to put any questions in the Q&A pane in the bottom navigation bar of Zoom. And if you have any comments or anything else, feel free to put those in the chat. This will be hopefully interactive. You know, we want to hear from you, even virtually. We want to talk with you about how everything is going. We will send out the slides at the end of the presentation, as well as a recording of the webinar. If you have any colleagues that you think would enjoy watching the presentation, feel free to share that as well. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Jerry Chadwick, he is the owner of Sunbelt Business Advisors, and Marge Murphy, who is the president of Acadia. They'll be giving us some great information today. I've seen the slides beforehand. Really, really interesting presentation. So with that, I am going to pass it off to Jerry to look over our agenda for today.
Thanks, Bridget. We're going to look at 4 specific areas during the course of the day. While it may sound kind of counterintuitive as you are looking at possibly some negative impacts on your business during the coronavirus, another way to look at it is how can you take advantage of some situations that are out there that can work to your advantage, that can put you in a better position than your competitors. While we all know cash is king and the bottom line is important, there are certain things that can really have a positive or negative impact on driving value for your business. So we're going to go through a number of those and show some examples of how big the difference can be when you are really working on some of these issues. I said cash is king. Well, Marge is going to talk a bit about how to get more of that by using some technical techniques, but also easy to implement and easy to use. And then we'll get into what do we do now, and we're hoping that some of that portion of the presentation will come through from your comments and your questions. All right, there are opportunities out there. We have been following for a number of years now, both Brian and Alan Bouillou, who own an economics firm in the Northeast. And whenever there's a downturn in the economy, whether it's a quarterly blip or something longer term, Alan has, and Brian, by the way, they're twins. They look exactly alike, and most of their jokes are the same. But they will both say there are winners and losers in these situations, and you can absolutely put yourself in a position to take advantage of those. Employ available resources. You've got 2 of them on this call right now. We can help to work you through a process of here's where I am, here's where I want to get to. I intend to transfer the business to my family. I intend to employ someone like yourself to look for a third-party buyer. We can help with all the steps along the way. And again, Marge is there to work on how to put an effective sales and marketing plan in place. But there are others. There are personal coaches that can really help some business owners to figure out how to better delegate. Operational experts for manufacturing, and the list goes on and on. So look outside yourself to look for resources, and then come back and focus all of your energy on what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and what kind of wrenching you can do on the business to make improvements. And then finally, implement plans that drive the future value of the business. And really, they're all interconnected. So we'll get started on some of that. So as you are struggling each morning to get out of bed, saying, "Oh my gosh, what is this day going to bring to me?" Flip it to more of a positive. What can you do today that maybe you didn't even conceive of 6 or 8 months ago? And a capital investment is one of those things. What equipment can you put into your facility or into your business that will help drive performance, possibly reduce costs? There are, right now we're seeing that capital investment is down. So most of the people who are selling the types of equipment that could benefit you, commercial real estate is down. So if a new facility or an additional facility makes sense, now can be the time to do that. SBA, in addition to PPP loans, also have some other loan packages out there that, one that I've taken advantage of is at 3.5% that's amortized over 30 years. I mean, it's hard to walk away from that kind of money. And the monthly payments are such that you ought to be able to keep it within your budget, even in some challenging budgetary times. Does an acquisition make sense? Is this a way to expand your market, get into a new geography, find some talented employees that maybe you'd been struggling to find when we had almost zero unemployment? But the key is, through all of these slides, find your differentiators, build on those, and use those as a competitive lever to bring in more business. There are some people who are out there now. Unfortunately, not every business was able to hang on to all their skilled labor, and as well as managerial talent. So find, aggressively try to find those people. And some of them you may not even want to use full time. There are a lot of people out there who are looking for part-time CFO positions, HR positions, things like that. So again, find the skill set you need and bring them in. And then whether your successor is somebody within your business, a family member, and even a third party, continue to work on the business and work on those skill sets. As you work on the business, you're actually preparing it for that third party buyer also. We believe in getting valuations early and often, as well as appraisals of real estate and equipment. In these days of GPS maps, you can't know where you're going to go or how you're going to get to where you want to go if you don't know where you are right now. So understand that. What is the value of your business? What are the assets worth? And then review those with your financial planners, your CPA, and so what's your net of that value going to be? How might that post-tax money be used to continue the plan for your retirement? You want to keep, those are two key groups that you want to keep apprised of where your business is, so that your goals are aligned and you hit that ultimate goal of, in the case of us baby boomers, finding a time where we can retire, or at least maybe step back in our business and have put together a vehicle that drives itself. Bridget, would you mind flipping back on that for me? Thank you. This is the importance of what we're talking about today. We've got two companies here. They both have what we call seller's discretionary earnings, or adjusted earnings, of $500,000. So sizable businesses to be dropping that kind of money to the bottom line. However, not every business is made alike. And as I said earlier, there are some people who are winners and some who are laggers in taking advantage of, working every day to build the business. Marge will talk about how you keep your earnings track record moving in a positive direction and sustaining that direction, as you can see the company B was able to do. Industry growth's the same, so for both companies. So, that's not changing. But how does company B take more share of that industry that's out there? So growth potential, obviously, company B's hitting it. Quality of sales and marketing. Competition. So these two companies work in the same space, but company B gets high marks for dealing with their competition. Why? Because they've set themselves apart. They have a value proposition where they don't think that of their competitors in the same way that company A does. Company B has turned themselves into an industry leader. Customer concentration issues that can be pushed down with a good sales and marketing plan. Product and service concentration. How can you expand the goods and services that you're providing to current accounts or future accounts? And again, sales and marketing. What's the barrier to entry? Well, you can see that it's the same for both of these companies. So what makes it attractive to a third-party buyer? It's the ease of operation, which company B has really aggressively gone after doing that. This ties so much to quality of employees, the skill sets that you've developed with your management team, and everything that for those last three are all about transferability of the business. So you need to ask yourself, just using this example, is it worth $800,000 for me to go from company A to company B? A 74% improvement in overall business value. We like to think the answer is yes.
Gary, I'm just going to jump in really quickly with this. This slide to me is just unbelievably important. Bridget, would you mind just flipping back 1 minute? And this is a real scenario. I mean, and when you look at each one of those areas that Jerry went through, I'm sure everybody could pick one or two and think, you know what, if I just focused in that zone, I would be able to increase the value of my organization. And it's this, to me, I love this slide because it just brings it to life, where you can focus things you should be thinking about. And as Jerry had mentioned earlier, if you need to go out and get a consultant to help you think about it, get an outside resource, it will be well worth the return on investment if you can move the needle. Most definitely can. So, sorry, Jerry, I'll go mute and I'll go off camera again here.
Thanks for writing it, Marge. You're exactly right. If you get an outside consultant or some other way to improve your business, and it costs $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year, are you going to spend $60,000 to get $800,000? I think the smart money says yes. This slide, these 10 best practices actually came from the Gehring Center, and we've identified for today 4 key elements. And so dynamic business strategy and memorializing that and turning that into a part of your management team development will be critically important for a lot of reasons that pertain to value. Leadership development, it starts at the top. Are you doing everything that you can to be the best leader of your business that you can? Some of it is identifying what you do on a daily basis that maybe somebody else should be doing. So that, to use the phrase that you hear at the Gehring Center, at Aileron, and in most books, you want to work on the business, not in the business. How do you get there? And part of how you get there is through the use of outside boards. We just highly recommend that you put the right people together who can offer you different perspectives, different ideas, and constructive criticism, and who will challenge you. It's tough to live in a bubble and get yourself to that next phase. And then finally, Marge is going to talk in great detail about business growth and how you can put plans in place to achieve that. All right. I'm having trouble advancing this slide. There we go. So I look at a dynamic business strategy in two ways as part of what I do. The first way is, get back to that GPS example. How do you get to where you want to go if you don't know where you are now? So really being introspective and gaining insights from your team, from customers, from suppliers, to find the areas that will enable you to go from good to great. Drop another book on you there. But attack those things. We made a decision in our business not to make an investment to move into a higher market category because we're not the best that we can be yet in the space that we occupy. And I'm not afraid to talk about that because that's the only way that we're going to improve. The other important part of this is if you're positioning yourself for sale, again, it doesn't really matter if it's an employee group, if it's family, or if it's that third party. How are they going to see your business? And by having this business strategy in writing, fleshed out with action steps, will show everybody that this business is ready to go and is easily transferable.
Jerry, I'm going to jump in again on that as well with regards to business strategy. We went through a process this past year, and I learned a lot about the importance of business strategy, and we thought we had business strategy in place. And then when you really put something in place that is a living, breathing plan, and you're meeting on a regular basis to see if you're achieving those goals, who on the team is responsible, what are the time frames, and then holding each other accountable as a leadership team to make sure you get it all done, you can really move the needle. So we put this in place, and we immediately began to see that return on investment in terms of the way the business was operating. So I can't implore you guys enough. If you don't have a good dynamic business strategy in place, get one in place. And especially with everything going on with COVID, even the strategy we had in place had to change. But at least we had a benchmark that we could go back and say, okay, here's where we need to change. So a really important piece of this pie for sure.
And complicated. So looking for someone who can lead you through this process.
Yes. You have to have someone who can lead you through it. You can't do it internally.
Yep.
You can't.
But it will include key members of your team to help you get there.
Yes, everybody has to agree to be an active participant for sure, but you've got to get an external resource to help you because they see it through a different lens and they can really guide you well.
Yep. Document processes and procedures. I can't tell you how important that is and how often that hasn't been done. When it comes to the owner and key managers, as much as I would like it to be the case, it would make my life a whole lot easier. The Vulcan mind meld does not exist. So be that as it may, you have to memorialize these processes and procedures. So again, when someone else is looking from the outside at your business, they can see that there's a roadmap to their future success also. And I'm just going to keep banging on the team development and training. Bridget, if you could help me here, I seem to be having a little problem. The key value drivers, as you saw from that example, are making sure that you've got a revenue and earnings track record that you can sustain. I run into a lot of strong, profitable businesses that that talk about how it's their main marketing plan is word of mouth. That just doesn't do it anymore, especially for boomers, who the people that used to be your word of mouth are now retiring or getting out of the business, or some other event in their life has happened where you're not their focus anymore. Marge is also going to talk about how buyers have changed and some tactics to make sure your business is ready for millennials and Gen Xers who are now in those buying seats. And how do you get to them? How do you make sure that that they can find you? Being aware of your industry outlook is critically important. So if you're not involved in an association or something that will keep you focused on what's going on out there in the world beyond your four walls, is important, because you'll need to be able to pivot as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. So we've spoken a lot about most of these things already, but if there's one thing that, if there's one slide you should just put on the wall next to your desk, it's this one. How do we break through these areas that might be holding your business back, and certainly holding the value of your business back? Leadership development. Making sure, here's the benchmark for leadership development. And that is determining how many vacations you took this past year, how many you've got planned for the balance of the year, how much time you spend actually on vacation or on the phone and on your laptop. How much have you been able to successfully push out roles and responsibilities so that you can do that without your head blowing up because of perceived risks? We talk about flight risk here of potential or of employees, and you minimize the chances that somebody's going to leave you the more you incorporate them into the decision making. So it's not something they wake up ready to do. Just like delegating isn't necessarily something that is a natural skill for business leaders, but develop them, excuse me, and your business will get better. Excuse me, and equally as important, your life will get better. Set up the next generation of your business. Succession planning isn't just about your business being transferred to new owners. It's also about who are your key people? What are their ages? What are their retirement plans? How are you going to make sure that you're ready for them to take their next step? How do you promote people and help them to be all they can be if there's nobody to fill their spot? So succession planning throughout your business is critically important. And even on the shop floor, or wherever you have your labor, they're less likely to jump for a couple of bucks if they feel they are part of something that that they have a hand in building. Outside boards. It is it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror and look at your flaws, or even opportunities that you aren't taking advantage of every morning. So go to a safe zone, and that's your outside board. There's only so much you can share internally with your team. It's hard to find peers who are going through the same experiences. So business owners are often kind of on an island by themselves. Well, get off that island and work with an outside board. Not friends, although they can become friends, but people that you know that are going to give you honest direction and honest feedback. As we've talked about the primary areas that drive value in your business, these are some of the same areas that you want your outside board to be expert in, so that they can help you to move the needle on value and move the needle towards success in the business. And all of this stuff can and should be done as we're going through this time of coronavirus. The reasoning may be different, but the ultimate goal is the same. Right now, it may be looking for ways to reduce costs, but still deliver your product or service to your customer with quality and timeliness and at the right value point. So you don't need to wait until the next cycle to start to look to find this board. And it doesn't all have to happen at once. If you know you've got some areas of challenge, find somebody who will take on the mantle of being an advisor to you, and then start building the skill sets of the outside board. Hate to be a shill for these guys again, but both Aileron and the Gehring Center are experts in helping companies to do this. And you Google it, and you'll find that there's a wealth of information on how to find the right people, how to utilize them, and help them make you more successful. All right. All of that is focused on if you're not company A, maybe even your company B, but how do you get to company C? Or maybe you're 8.5, and how do you get to company B? These are all the most critical areas of value drivers for a business, and they are all the right things to be working on now and throughout your ownership of the business. All right, now I'm going to turn this over to Marge, who is really got some cool ideas on how to go about setting yourself up for greater growth and profitability.
I'd love to talk about this part of it here, but Jerry, before I do, I just wanted to jump in and add a little bit to what you were saying about boards. We formed a board in the course of the past year. It was part of our strategic plan to get a board in place. And you really do have to think about the board members that you want to bring on. You want to bring on people that are, again, experts in areas that maybe you're not. People who can challenge you. If you're thinking about, okay, I really need somebody who can dig deep into my finances, make sure you get, somebody who's got a CFO type background, if marketing is an area that you need, or you're thinking of selling, get people with the right expertise on the board, and they will challenge you, because I tell you, going into those board meetings, you have to have your homework done, and you've got to, otherwise they become very disinterested. They're here to help you. So a board is an excellent, excellent idea. All right, so we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about business growth here. So business growth.
If I could pivot off something you just said,
sure,
or what you're going to say. So think back to that previous slide, and those are legit multiples was it like 2.1, 2.2 for company A, 3.4, 3.6 for company B. Those are real numbers. Organizations that are out there that are consolidating business transactions say that for the last 20 years, the average multiple is 2.3 to 2.4. Forget what you read in the paper. If you're a business that's under $5 million in revenue, if you can get it to 3.5 to 4 to 4.5, you're doing great for yourself and you will greatly benefit by it. But the key here is for every dollar Marge is going to talk to you about how you drop it to the bottom line, turn it into $3.50, turn it into $4.50, turn it into $5. And now you'll see the power of the investment that we think you should make. So with that, Marge, enjoy.
Here we go. So Jerry was just saying, business growth is achieved by, boosting the top line and getting those revenues, or really making your organization efficient so you don't have an awful lot of expense in there. However way you want to look at it, the fact of the matter is your top line, increasing your top line is going to increase your bottom line. And it's amazing when we look at oftentimes our business, we look at the finances and we look at the accounting, we look at a bunch of indicators that we have that tend to be what I call lagging indicators. The money's already been in the bank, the contracts have been signed, the POs are in, and we're learning. And that's fine, looking at your indicators of the history of things that have gone on. But when I look at business growth and I take it through my lens, I want to be looking at my leading indicators. I want to be understanding what's going to happen in the next 6 or 12 months. Now, God knows none of us, could have imagined we'd be living through COVID or a pandemic, but at least if we have indicators when things unexpectedly come along, we're able to really take a deep dive into them and understand what we can do, what we're seeing in the future, and how that's going to affect us. So let me just say, in terms of business growth, let's say you're trying to increase your top line and you know that you've got a 6 to 12 month sales cycle. How can you tell when the growth is going to start? How can you tell if something happens, when it's going to impact you? Is it going to be 18 months out, 20 months out? It's important to really understand where these conversions are happening, and if sales conversions are going to be thwarted in some way or increased in some way. You need to understand that and know that. So knowing these indicators will help you to be able to predict your business growth. And again, that's a very attractive target for anybody who's potentially looking to purchase your business or become involved in some way. If you can show them those kind of indicators, the value to your business increases tremendously. Most of you know that our clients reside in the manufacturing and the B2B manufacturing industrial space. And our manufacturing process to our clients is very, very important. They go to work every day and they know exactly what's going to happen in order to bring in raw materials and then create something and roll it off the production line. So it's really important for them to have process in place. We see manufacturing process day in and day out. And yet oftentimes we don't see that same diligence with sales process. And as I had mentioned earlier, that sales process is going to be your leading indicator to the future revenue of your company. And without process, you really can't understand if there's a problem. If a machine breaks down in a manufacturing process, they walk over to that machine and they say, we've got to fix it so we can move on. In the sales process, it's not as transparent. If there's something that's not happening properly in the quoting department or following up on quotes, we can't pinpoint where that problem is sometimes. It is available, we can do it, and it all surrounds the data that you're capturing and the ability to analyze that data. You can fix the problem, but you need to have a process in place in order to do so. So let's take a look. What can we do to put that sales process in place? And it's a very easy thing to do, but first we have to understand how buyers are buying in order to put that process in place. And Jerry mentioned it earlier. People are buying differently. Welcome to the digital age. Welcome to digital transformation. And we can't ignore it any longer. We see these statistics on the screen right now that 70% of buyers have fully defined their needs before they even pick up the phone to engage with sales. In addition, 44% will identify specific solutions before even reaching out to sales. So what is that telling you? People are doing their own research. They're buying the way we buy now. You need something off of Amazon, you go, you look at a product or two, and you start to think about, look at the reviews, how are they doing? So we are thinking through this whole new way. We don't get in the car, drive to 4 stores, look at a bunch of different things, and then make a decision. We're doing it all right from our laptops, just as we're sitting on this webinar today, looking at a Zoom meeting. So we have to understand how our buyers are buying, and then what do we have to do to help them along that journey. So we'll take a deeper dive into this for a moment. We take a look at this slide, and this slide actually is put out by Thomas for Industry, or ThomasNet, as some of you might know them, but Thomas has a wealth of information about the industrial buyer space and how people are buying. But even as I look at this cycle, or this transformation of going through this buying cycle, is relevant for any business that you're in. So let's look at the top line, and these are all of the factors that are important for the buyer. So the buyer has an awareness. They're saying, I have a need. I need to find someone who can help me solve a problem. So what do? They go out, they start Googling, and they start looking for people who, or companies who they think can help them. So it's really important that they find us, right? The next thing they do is they want to learn a little bit more. So I need to be educated. I need to be looking at content that's helping me understand what it is that you do. The next phase then is to say, I need a little more product data. So maybe, if you're selling a product, they might be looking at different specifications. If you're selling clothing, it's going to be color and size. If you're selling a machine, it might be, what is the machine going to do for me? And what are all the tolerances that machine has? And then they're starting to evaluate. They might have down to 2 or 3 vendors that they're looking at, and they're really starting to take a deeper dive. This is about where they're starting to say, okay, I'm getting to my short list, and I might be picking up the phone to have a further conversation before deciding who they're going to purchase from. So pretty logical to us. Now, the trick here for us in putting a sales and marketing plan together is understanding, how do we feed this to them along the way? What do they need as they go through this journey? So in the very beginning, it's all about creating demand. We have to be found. Well, probably for most of us, that's through our website. If it's not, maybe it's through associations you might belong to. Maybe you're doing pay-per-click programs. Maybe you have a very lively social media life. Maybe you do presentations, and that brings in a lot of people to you, of course, along with referrals. But that demand piece right there is really your marketing department. How are they creating that demand? And then, of course, we're identifying prospects. We want to be pulling the right people to us. If we sell ice cream cones, we don't want to be attracting people who are looking for hamburgers. We want to have the right content in place to be attracting the right people that could potentially be our clients. Of course, we want to get spec'd in. So we want them to say, these are the folks we want to do business with. So how do we help ourselves stand out? Is that through content? Is that through giving them a very good experience on our website? Maybe having some really good videos that explain exactly what it is we do or what our product can do? What are the types of things that are going to really spark interest in anyone who's considering us as a potential vendor? And then, of course, we want that phone to ring, and we want to have our salespeople on the other end having good information, understanding exactly how to guide them, answering questions appropriately, and if not being able to understand or answer the questions, bringing in technical experts who can help them and have a really good team approach. So we see what they want. Now we have to see what we have to give them and the best way to do that. I'm going to transition to the next slide, because this one I actually love. This is a slide from HubSpot, and it just really illustrates how we go from strangers to prospects, to customers, to promoters. And very simply, it illustrates the different teams. And again, this is just a graphic. Anyone in any organization can look slightly different. But the yellow, folks, is the team of the marketing people who are getting that website traffic and converting leads. And they're going to hand off to sales, which is the green, and they're learning more about the potential deals that might be going on, and they're connecting and they're getting information. And then at the very end, we've got customer service. And customer service is illustrated in blue. And it's really important that once people buy from us, they continue to be happy because they become promoters and they become those really nice warm referrals that we all love to have. So when looking at it like this, we have teams working. We have to be working together. They have to be handing off information to one another, and they all have to understand what they're doing in a holistic form. They're all in it for the good of the company, to increase sales and to make sure they're getting good referrals back. So I really do like this HubSpot graphic. It kind of pieces it all together. It works very well too with the graphic that we had from Thomas. So going back to what I mentioned earlier, it's all about going from interest to invoice. And if we take a look at our accounting and our contracts, again, those are our lagging indicators. Those are things we know about. Very important to look at, very important to analyze. But what I'm not seeing as much in the world today is looking at our CRM and our marketing automation data and metrics and analyzing that to help further our business growth and be able to gain more clients, become more diversified. And that information and that data is there, but I'm not sure we're all capturing it in a way that is helping us be smarter. So if you think about accounting, you would never put false data in your accounting. You wouldn't want to look at your profit and loss statement and go, I think that's close, but I'm not exactly sure. That information we hold near and dear to our hearts. We look at our financials every month. We're looking at all of our balance sheets, profit and loss, all of that stuff all of the time. But are we doing the same with our future money? Are we doing the same with our future sales and the people that we should be pulling in to do business with us? And I think that's where we struggle. There really is no need to struggle though, because we do have a lot available to us. There are CRMs out there that are very easy to use and marketing automation tools. And again, this is the view to our future. And when we look at the future, these are the types of things we want to see. And the graphics I'm going to show you here are actually real life graphics from a marketing automation system that we're using. We use HubSpot for many of our clients. And these are the types of reports that we are getting out of our tools, our technology, to really help our clients take a look at what's happening in their business in the future. So the first graphic I'm going to put up here is website traffic by sources. So oftentimes people will say, well, okay, aside from my referrals, where are my leads coming from? Are they coming from trade shows? Are they coming from our website? Are they coming from presentations that we're doing? What is the best source of our leads? We want to be able to look at reports like this and understand where our sweet spot is. We also want to see if our leads are taking a downturn or if something's happening and maybe we don't understand why. But by visualizing it and seeing it, we have the ability to fix it. The next slide up is going to be looking more at what's going on with our individual salespeople. What are the activities that are going on? Are we looking at how many meetings are happening? Are we having enough activity with our sales folks? Are they making enough calls? And this is where we start to dive into what exactly do we need to do in order to be generating the results that are going to give us the growth that we're looking for. And this doesn't happen overnight. You have to look at your metrics, analyze them, and determine what's right for you. I mean, we can all say, okay, everybody, we're going to have a 10% growth next year, but we have to analyze, what does 10% growth mean? Does it mean that we have to make 100 sales visits every month, or we have to do 17 webinars in a year? We have to look at the activity and understand what it's going to produce. But when we start to gather this data, we then have the ability to clearly do that without guessing at what those metrics need to be. Another important leaderboard, of course, is going to be what is the sales revenue dollars, and it could be per area, per region, or per salesperson. Whatever those metrics are important to you, again, we want to be able to pull that out, see exactly what we have in the pipeline, where it is in the process. Is it the beginning of the sales cycle, the end of the sales cycle? And how do we know how much of that is going to convert into business? So we take a look at the next slide, and this one to me is really so helpful. So helpful when we get to the point where we have data like this. We've got our sales stages, and we can see exactly what converts from one stage to the next. So in this particular slide, we're taking a look at from going from a sales engagement, we have to have 15 people in our pipeline in order to get 5 at the end of the day. When you can start to pull information like this out of your tools, you really have a clear picture of what your future is, and you can make adjustments accordingly. And it's not just a guessing game. And that's what we want to take out of this, is the guessing game. Because the value of your business to a future buyer is really, what do you have and what's going to be recurring, and how do I know that's going to continue? Because oftentimes when a business transitions, the business owner is going to be there for a short time, might not be there for, maybe a year and a half to 2 years. They want to know, whoever's purchasing this business, that you have a sales and marketing machine that's going to continue even if you're not there. And if all you're doing is bringing in referrals because you have a huge network, that's great. But the day that you leave, that's going to walk out the door as well. So this type of a value that you can provide to a future business owner, or even if you want to keep the company yourself and you're just saying, I want to grow it because my kids are going to take it over. This kind of information is absolutely so important. So before I leave you, I have a couple of tips, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat pane. So when we look at this for companies, we say there's really 3 steps to creating your sales and marketing machine. The very first one is to really stop and assess where you are today. You want to look at your people, your process, the technology, and how they're operating. And if you just think back to that HubSpot slide that I showed, what's going on in marketing? How is that transitioning to sales? And again, how is then that transitioning to customer service, so that you have the continuous history of that client from the day they came to your website for visit number 1 to when they've closed that deal with you and you're now an ongoing client. What does that look like? What does your team look like? I even put together a little sales and marketing org chart oftentimes for our clients, and we discuss the roles, and then we discuss what technology they're using and how everyone's using it. Once we can get that all flow charted, we can start to see where we might have gaps, whether it be in not having a resource, filling a specific role, or maybe we're using redundant technologies and we can streamline some things. So that assessment is really critical. The next step that we really do is making sure that everyone's aligned and they understand a greater goal. Throwing out a goal of, hey, we're going to grow the business 10%, top line, 10% more next year. What does that mean for the people that are sitting in marketing, inside sales, outside sales? What does that mean for your reps? What does that mean in terms of running reports to track where you are to that 10% goal? And is that really feasible? So we know that we can get marketing and sales on the same plane, talking about the same goals and understanding what they want to achieve as a team. When we get that aligned, we can see tremendous growth. And Marketing Profs actually measured this, and they said that there was a 38% higher sales win rate. I mean, we've seen it with our own clients that their sales win rates have increased. We don't always have insight into an 18-month sales cycle, so it could be a ways out there, but we know we are seeing those engagements growing at a faster rate. So aligning your people is critical, and having what I call smarketing meetings. You put sales and marketing all in one room and you talk about it, because what marketing is doing is feeding sales, and everybody has to be aligned. So that's critical, aligning the team. And then of course, the very final step is, this is not a one and done deal. There is constant refinement behind your sales and marketing activities. You want to prioritize, you want to deploy, you want to adjust and modify. You have to modify all the time, and we've had to modify tremendously over the past 3 months in many, many ways. So you're going to plan, you're going to put campaigns in practice, you're going to go back and check, you're going to look at your analysis and your data, and then you're going to readjust. So constantly refining your process is extremely important. Learning as you're going, refining and making things easier for your team, and understanding what's going well and what's not going well. So again, I look at this as more of a a monthly meeting, not a weekly meeting. Sometimes it can even go quarterly, and I like to wrap a term around it called the center of excellence. Creating a center of excellence for your sales and marketing teams where they can come together, talk about things that need to be adjusted, and also brainstorm on new ideas at the same time. So again, really important thing to do. So 3 steps: assessing, aligning, refining. Sounds easy, takes some time, but it's an awful lot of fun once you get it rolling. And last but not least, what I did was just put some thoughts and processes that you could go through in a self-evaluation to just think about how you would go through this and what it might look like for your organization. So that is it in a nutshell. Just to recap, we are really a lead generation organization for the industrial and the manufacturing space. And I laugh because when I started Acadia over 20 years ago, it really was about making outbound phone calls and doing prospecting for our clients. And we evolved into putting digital strategy in there because that was just another way of bringing leads to the table. And I think today we're spending most of our time helping our clients understand that whole buyer's journey. And sometimes they just need us for a certain part of it. But helping them look at that holistically, understanding their people and how they're working and the tools they're using in order to optimize that, in order to grow the top line, bring in more sales, and make sure that they're bringing in the right clients at the right time. And Jerry, I'm going to hand it off to your slide here, which I'm going to bring up as well. So maybe you can give us a little bit of a recap on Sunbelt and exactly where you guys focus.
Thank you. Marge, that was great. Before I move on, one of the valuation models that we don't really get involved in that often is what's called discounted future cash flow. And that is a way for an owner to actually grab some of the value of the business going forward from the platform that they've built for the future success of the new owner. However, because most people don't have a process by which they can effectively forecast, we generally can't use that. So one of the other components of value to which we're talking about in putting a system in place where you can actually see how you're performing and what your future looks like is just another way to add another dollar another percentage of a multiple going forward. So thanks for that. I look at our business in 3 different buckets. One on the advisory service side is where we work with customers to understand where they are. Part of that is also to determine where there are some soft places or some value gaps, so that you can put plans in place to address those things and help you to get to where you need to be to get on to the next phase of your life. Where there are gaps, we want to deploy the right team of consultants, or help you to deploy to focus on each one of those critical areas and help you get as good as you can be. I'm happy to announce that Kate Vreiner, who is a vice president in the office, just became certified in exit strategy planning and is putting a team together that is a consulting group that can help people in all of these areas. So we're excited about that. We think we can help people much more effectively now move through to this final area, which is getting down to it, confidentially marketing your business for sale, finding the right buyer at the right price, and helping you to not make any mistakes, provide us all the ammunition we're going to need to effectively market the business and get the right price and terms for a business owner. So That's us in a nutshell.
Go. Well, Bridget, I'm going to ask you, have we had any questions in the chat pane? Is there any questions that anyone would like to ask now? Feel free to take yourself off mute or go ahead and put your questions up in the chat pane for Jerry and I to address.
Yep, we do have a couple. So we have, what type of CRM software do you recommend? Marge?
One that's going to work for you. So there's a lot out there. I personally have worked with, 5 or 6. I'm going to tell you I like HubSpot because we use it a lot. I find it very easy to use. But there are many out there, and if you would love to connect with me after the webinar at any time, we could certainly, I could hear what you're thinking of and maybe come up with a couple of options for you.
And then we also have, what is the typical size of an Acadia client? It's from an anonymous person. That's kind of a multi-answer question. So Marge, you can take that one if you want now, or we can take it offline.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking to do and how detailed we could get. I'll say on average, probably most of our clients are looking at most likely about well, it depends if we're doing digital for you. We're probably at about a $5,000 a month budget. But, I'll be transparent. That's usually where we are. But the key here is what you put in the top, do you get out the bottom? So we got to prove to you that if you invest with us, we're going to give you a whole lot more out the other side.
And then we have one for Jerry. Does Sunbelt also help individuals buy a business?
Yes, we do. We can help someone who's interested in acquiring a business, just like we do with sellers, help them from start to finish. One, identifying the type of business that might fit their skill sets and their budget, work with them to understand how to go through the process, how to investigate opportunities that are out there for them. Once they find a business that they want to make an offer on, coach them through that, and then help to work on financing, which is every day is getting more interesting, especially with coronavirus. But yes, love to do that.
Excellent. Well, we are right up against 2:30. I know there is at least a few other questions. I have them captured, and we will follow up with you in an email right after this webinar to answer those questions. Thank you, everyone, for your time. You will receive an email from us with the slides and the recording, as we mentioned. So thanks so much. Feel free to send an email if there are any other questions.
All right. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jerry. Be good. Everybody have a great day.
Okay.
Bye.